Do you have your drink? Bro, juicing, bro.
I'm not gonna lie, dude. There's something very strange about drinking a pink Monster. It kind of gives off like hot Cheeto pajama girl.
It's big brat energy.
Racing it, dude. I don't care if Brat Summer ended. All right.
Yeah, for sure.
Pipeline Punch by Monster.
Yeah, let's go.
I've been enjoying it deeply. It's so delicious. There's a lot of sugar in this. It's the first time I've ever looked at that. So I should probably not.
100%.
46 grams.
Yeah, jeez.
38 of which are added. So technically it's only like 38 because like the juice part of it.
Yeah. Welcome to the Home Studio Hangout podcast. I'm your host, Drew. Finally, here with the man himself. Married. Been on hiatus because he had to move. The man, the myth, the legend. You know him, you love him. Mr. Josh Matotek. Back once again.
What an incredible intro. It's probably the best intro that I've received since we did this. That's so sick.
That is probably true.
Yeah, okay. I want to be a guest.
Yeah.
Might be able to pencil in some time next month.
Yeah.
So what's up, dude?
No, dude. It's good to have you back, man.
Thanks, man.
I've kind of given people a little bit of what's been going on, but
Very cool.
you've had a lot happen in the last, I think the last time, I don't even remember the last time you were on. I'm going to be real.
I know that we did one. I can't remember if it came out since I moved.
I think it did.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I'm going to pull it up right now. Because I remember us having another conversation. Yeah. About 5 months ago from now, we had a conversation where it was our 2024 so far, and it was just a big hangout episode. We talked about you moving and I think you had literally just gotten there.
Yeah, 5 months, that would make sense.
Yeah, and so that was the last one you did was about 5 or 6 months ago. So
very cool.
Yeah,
Not
we
much
did that
here.
and you moved. Yeah, well, I was gonna say I don't even know if you had started working or anything yet.
No, I actually kind of put off with the move. We put a lot off with the move because of the wedding. You know, so it's like we did so much this year. So like next year is gonna be so sick. I can't wait to do nothing.
Yo, what's up real quick? We had a little bit of a mishap with recording. Josh's computer was freaking out. So a bit of this episode actually got cut out. So I'm going to drop you back into the middle of this conversation, but we had just been talking about building some pedal boards, and Josh had been working on building a pedal board, and I'm working on building a bass board, and we kind of get into that conversation. So that got erased because of some computer issues we were having. But let's hop right back into the episode right now. Yeah, so this looks way better. All right, so we were talking about bass pedal board stuff.
Yeah.
The JHS YouTube channel is what we're talking about, actually. Yeah, I've never really watched anything on their YouTube channel. I have seen some people do really interesting comparisons between and maybe it was the JHS YouTube channel where they did the Bonsai, when they released the Bonsai overdrive, and it's like every kind of overdrive possible.
The Pack Rat sounds really good.
Really? I'm planning on
getting
that one. So that's the thing, though. It's like I like the idea of something like that. That bass, the punchline, like the bass channel strip idea. I like it in theory, but I also kind of want to craft like a really specific signature sound with a bunch of different things rather than just like, oh, you can buy this sound in a box.
Yeah, I feel that. That's something that I'm kind of dealing with is as much as I want to keep things simple and just buy 7 Boss pedals and call it a day.
Exactly.
there are
You
some
could
things
essentially
that,
just buy a Boss like channel strip type deal and have the same outcome, you
yeah,
know?
for real. And so like then I had the idea of like, well, I want to be able to use this for keyboards too. And then I also
Mhm.
want to be able to use it for bass. And so like I'm thinking the Pocket Comp should be pretty good for bass.
Yeah.
It'll be really cool. Like I'm excited to like run room mics into the pedal board, you know?
Mhm.
Because that acts as a preamp. And then so that'll be cool. Uh and then yeah, like the idea of just like having this multi-purpose pedal board
Yeah.
then like kind of started making way more sense. And I'm like, why didn't I do this like years ago? You know, like this is a really cool way to get things out of the computer and have it be you know, super, super flexible. Because the reason why I never built a pedal board is because it's like, well, most of the time if I'm recording at home, I'm running DI and like
Mhm.
I really don't want to invest, you know, like $1,000+ in a pedal board and then it's just gonna sit there. It's like I don't play shows really, or you know, so it's like for me, it never made sense. And then lately it's been like, well, I want to start getting into amps and I want to start like doing this. I should probably get a pedal board together. And
Yeah.
then it's like, then I picked up the DX7 and I want to get a Prophet 5. Neither of those have onboard effects. So it's like, well,
Yep.
I would need something for that. And then it's like, we're recording bass all the time. And it's just like, it would be cool to have something that's multi-purpose. And so I got to figure out like the routing. I'm just going to kind of not lose my mind over it right now and just kind of buy things and then figure it out after.
Keep it as simple as possible and just plug it in when you need it as you go for
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
Right now, the main thing is to get it functional for everything. So I'm mostly focused on like modulation and dynamics. And then
Okay.
I'll pick up a few distortion pedals and
Dude, I want to shout out Austin from Make Pop. He did a video recently where he talked about he built a pedal board specifically for like changing the way that samples sound.
yeah.
And it's really cool. He's using it's really a lot based around the Chroma console. Have you seen that one?
Yeah.
Um
I
and
still
he
can't
was like,
figure
yeah,
out if I like that thing.
it seems to do some pretty cool stuff. And that between that and the Chase Bliss stuff,
Yeah.
like you can kind of get some really cool effects, and it's a really interesting way. This is kind of where I'm thinking about going with the second pedal board is like having a effects pedal board that is like, oh, I found a sample that is really cool, but I want it, but it's like a splice sample or something, and I want to make it feel more unique. Like I can run it through that stuff and create
Yeah.
interesting effects around it rather than just like copying and pasting like a sample across the board. And it's like then you're actually being creative. That's where something like splice actually becomes way cooler if you have those pedals to run it through and create interesting sounds out of.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's part of the reason why I also got into this is because for a couple years now, I've been thinking about the idea of having a board where it's strictly made for sending to, right? Like, so pulling things out of the computer, running through the board, that requires it to be stereo in most cases. So,
yep, I think that's why he liked also the Chroma console because it's a stereo out.
yeah.
So you can get the stereo back out.
Yeah, so my idea is that I'm gonna have a stereo loop and then the mono loop for modulation, and then I'm also going to have like the full loop for guitar.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna have to figure out how to do that. Like I could get like an LS2 line splitter, but that's only 2 loops, and it's also not stereo. So I need to figure out a way to. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
So
it immediately gets really complicated.
Yeah, routing.
You want to be able to like move stuff in and out.
Yeah, and I also thought about just having, like, I could totally get like one of those, like Boss sells one that's like 3 stereo loops that you can select from, and then you can also configure them in different orders. So I was looking at that one. And then I was also entertaining the idea of like just using cables, man. You know, and just have like
you could get
2 pedal boards, you know,
like a looper pedal style thing where it's just like every pedal goes into a spot.
Yeah.
And then you just tell it what order you want the things to go in.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at.
That's kind of the Boss thing, right?
Yeah, except this one is just like 3 stereo loops, or maybe they aren't even stereo. That's the main problem is we got to find stereo. But
that's true.
I'm not going to let that ruin me because the way I look at it, like the chorus is probably going to be like one of the first modulation effects, and that splits the stereo.
Yeah.
So then I can run stereo effects after it and then just do mono sends. I really don't care that much. But
yeah, it's not as big as long as you have a stereo at the end.
Yeah, and
to get
so
it back in, so that's all that really matters.
the main thing I'm looking at is like the Strymon Deco. I think that that's going to be pretty cool. But then that Templo Devices company, they make a really cool tape saturation plugin, pedal called the Real Deal, spelled REEL. And so that thing is sick. They also have a delay version of that, and they have a small version. They have too much stuff, so I got to figure out what I want to get. But yeah, I'm excited to get into it. It's just like one more little thing, and then we're planning out the next studio build, which will be starting middle of January. And so like we're mapping out like, okay, like what lines do we need in the control room, and to get us by until the live room is usable. And
I was gonna say it's lucky that like next year you guys working on this build. It's lucky that Leah's already been a part of building like multiple spots at this point. And that's a massive plus for you, because I can imagine going into that like not having built out a large scale spot before would be incredibly daunting and annoying.
To be fair, like if it were up to me, it would just be one room, like because the
it has to work with Lee's workflow as well, though.
Yeah, and so like he can't stand having vocalists in the room with him.
Yeah, he doesn't like it at all.
Yeah, and so he is doing like a live room and a control room setup. And so we were just yesterday mapping out like what we need. And I realized that doing the pedal board like this saves us so much trouble, because like the signal chain is always set. It's always going to be line out, and so like it's going to be really cool to just be able to like have a central thing of being like anything that's an instrument in the studio is going to go through this. Then we have this mic set up for any acoustic stuff, and then we have the vocal mic. And so it's a cool way to like simplify things that I didn't really think about before. It was always like an extra thing in my head where it's like, oh well, like it would be cool to like take stems and like reamp them through a pedal board, or it would be really cool to have like some effects pedals for synths, and then like it would be really cool to just have like a couple distortion pedals for a guitar, and then like combining all of those once into one thing is like kind of fun. So that's been I don't know, we've been talking about this for like 3 hours, but like you know what I mean? Like
I like I like the idea of even just getting something like a Rhodes or like a Prophet, like you were talking about, and like being able to run that through something like a Strymon El Cap, and like having the analog like tape delay stuff like on a pedal that sounds so good.
That's another thing that I'm thinking about. So
yeah,
I'm not gonna lie, dude, the more that I get into like these delay pedal things, the more that all delay pedals sound exactly the same. They all kind of suck. All right.
There's very few of them that stick out to me that are like S tier, in my opinion. We should actually 100% do a tier list eventually of like delay pedals or like compressor pedals or something like that.
Yeah,
because most of them aren't very good in my opinion.
The coolest one that's out there is the Sir. You could sync MIDI through it. You could do that with the Strymon too, but like that way, like your delay is always in time with your session, which is like super cool.
Yes.
Like if you're in a studio all the time, like that is like awesome. But it's like $500 or $600, and for that price,
the timeline's like $500 or $600 too. It's crazy expensive.
Yeah, and so it's like for that price, dude, you can just get a real tape echo.
Yeah, you're right. Especially in a studio scenario, you have.
I'm not playing shows with it, dog.
That's the thing. It's like it gets a little more complicated when you look at it from a studio perspective, because it's like, oh, there's a lot of rack gear that I could buy that would arguably do this better.
Well, that's exactly it, right? Like you're like, I need a killer bass chain, and I'm like, why don't you just rack up a 1073 and a distressor?
Exactly. Exactly. I wish the distressor made a pedal. That would be exactly what I want, actually.
Yeah.
For the most flexibility. But yes, so very similar. The only difference there is like you're building it specifically for studio, not for live. I'm building it to be like a really great bass chain in the studio, but also be able to like tour with it.
Yeah.
Like, travel with it and play shows.
One day, the last thing Well, one of the last things in the chain is going to be a real tape echo.
Yeah.
Because like you could find like Soviet era ones on Reverb in good condition for like $400 or
Yeah.
$500.
Well, and Lee's pretty handy. He likes to fix stuff.
No, he doesn't.
Right? He likes to fix stuff.
No,
he's notoriously handy.
But he can be, but
I know.
that's above our pay grade fixing something like that. So you know, my dad will be getting a fat FaceTime call.
I was gonna say that feels like a you and your dad project.
Yeah, I'll be like, okay, so this looks like it blew up. What is it? Be like, Josh, that's the whole board. And I was like, okay,
you got to replace everything. Yeah. So yeah, I think building the studio is like a big project for you in 2025. What's the let's talk like next year stuff. Like what are you thinking about doing next year? What are some goals for yourself? All that kind of stuff.
Honestly, I haven't really thought about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been like trying to like distance myself from like the idea of like what I should be, or like you know, what like my life should look like, because every time I set goals, even if I like achieve them in some way, it never quite looks like how I imagined it, which is really exciting. And like I feel like everybody feels that way. I think the big things for me is to like take my health more seriously. That's like number one. Number two is I just want to, like, obviously we're going to be working on the big studio, but like this little room, like I want to make sure I turn this into like a really fun place to hang out and be creative. Number three,
have rights in. You thinking about making it your main like writing spot?
Yeah.
Did you co-writes in?
Yeah. The purpose of this room is going to be writing and finishing. You know,
nice.
Just still gonna be running the Callies for a long time until I get ATC money. And honestly, I don't think my neighbors would appreciate that. So
probably not. Honestly, the Callies are for where you are, like, is probably going to be the perfect setup.
Yeah, they're gonna be here until we move, and I get a house that isn't connected to other houses. And yeah, I think yeah, like goal wise, it's really just keep focusing on like the art. And like I think like previously I had a whole scenario pop up a few months ago, which I definitely can't share publicly, but where I how should I word this? So essentially, like I thought that I was losing work to somebody that like I really, really looked up to. And we ended up like getting hit up again by the artist to work. And after hearing their experiences and stuff like that, I realized that the only thing that really matters is like the art. You know what I mean? And so I think
how the artist feels coming on the other, because I think I remember what situation you're talking about. And it's like how the artist feels on the other side of everything.
Yeah, and you know, so like I think that where a lot of people screw up is they're very interested in like what they can do and like what they can make an artist sound like and what they can you know, kind of add to something. And I think that while that's true, like on a surface level, like that's what we do as producers. We're like, artists show up and they have this song, and then we look at it and we go, oh, well, I'm really good at all these things. Let me give you the things that I'm good at. And like a lot of times that doesn't match up with like what the artist wants, you know? And every artist needs different things. And so I think really what it comes down to is like as far as goals go, is like I just want to figure out a way to really provide an experience that's like conducive to the artist process, you know? I think I said it on here a while ago, but like I like to think, I don't know if I said it about production. I think I said it about mixing. But I was like, I feel like there's nothing worse than whenever, oh dude, this is such a hot take. This is gonna make people upset. I feel like there's nothing worse than whenever you pull up a song and the first thing you think of is, man, this mix rips.
Yeah.
Because like that's not the point. Like you're not supposed to listen to a song and immediately go, wow, this mix is incredible. Like, because you're listening to a song. You know what I mean? Like you're supposed to be enjoying the song. You're supposed to get sucked into the song. And so like I think that that's kind of the goal. Is like I just want to like focus on like how can I be invisible to the process, but then still like pitch ideas where I'm just like absolutely swinging for the fences, you know?
For sure. And pushing them as the artist as well to try and expand their horizon within their like pocket.
Yeah. I was talking to my brother about like art and marketing, and because he has a clothing brand, and like how like we are perceived by like others and like people that we don't know and all this stuff. And I was like really going on way too long, because he definitely, it's not applicable to him, about how like I feel like the goal should be to execute like the vision without like imprinting like who we are on it. You know what I mean? Because like it's not about me. Like it's about the song, it's about the artist. And so like while it's unavoidable that everything I work on will relate back to me, like part of the reason why you're hired is because of the taste that you have, and how that translates, how your taste lines up with the artist, right? Like that's part of it. But I think I want to focus on like being even more diverse in my skill set, so I can really kind of mesh with whatever comes across the table. We started doing country songs, and it was really fun. Like the first thing I did is like, this was kind of like a pop country tune. And so like I just started cooking, and like the whole thought is like, okay, well, like how can I elevate like the energy of this, and like how can I like elevate the vocal in a way that like makes sense to me, but also isn't going to get like stomped on, because maybe it's not the most traditional country production.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, I really like went for it, like I had like 808 cymbals in the last hook,
Heck
and
yeah,
like
let's go.
I had like an 808 kick that just would punch, every other bar. And like I had a giant Juno sounding string in the chorus.
That's cool.
You can't tell it's there though, because like the idea like that I was trying to execute is like, how can I make this more energetic in a way that like acoustic instruments won't make it more energetic?
Yeah.
And
without being like energy through, this is something I talked about before with a couple other people. I don't know if it was on the podcast or not, but it was like energy through not loudness, like not having like volume raise and therefore there's energy, but have like expansion of sound or texture, like, or like thickness raise the energy level.
Yeah. And that's another thing too, that I'm getting more and more into, is you can't have big moments if everything's big, which like we've known. I think we talked about that before. But like traditionally, like if you listen to old music, the biggest moments still aren't that big, because like they had so much headroom on everything. And like
they also, the biggest moments were also like emotionally like there.
What?
Oh, hold on a second. What the heck? This is a me problem. Hold on.
Oh, okay. You sound like a robot.
I think I'm good.
Beep,
I think
boop.
I'm good. Oh, my internet. The reason I was late getting on is our power went out right before. And so I was like, when I got home, everything was out. And so I got the shower, and then everything came on while I was in the shower. And so I was getting everything back on, and my internet is still doing like a weird thing.
Cool. Well, you're back now, so I could hear you.
Okay, cool. Oh, good crap. What was I saying?
Talking about big moments not being that big.
Oh, I was saying a lot of time the big moment, quote unquote, big moment, the reason that it's big is that you're emotionally attached to the song by that point. And so the emotional part feels big, not necessarily the song itself. If you look at it analytically, isn't actually that big, but like emotionally, they've done something there to like make you feel like it's a massive moment.
Yeah, I think whenever I think about like big moments, like I think about like Vampire by Olivia Rodrigo,
Great example.
I mean, the production is huge, but that's a very interesting song where it just kind of feels like it's building and building and building, and then there's tempo changes, and like it's very cool. And that's another song where like you don't listen to that and think about how sick the mix is. Like I think that like Mitch McCarthy might be like the best mixer of all time. He's just like so incredibly slept on, you know,
Yeah.
because like I love everything that he mixes. I think that him and Dan are like a dream team. And so yeah, like I don't know. That's something I've been thinking about a lot is like you don't need like the whole wall of sound thing, you know, and all the time. And that's something that like people who come up in rock and metal have a hard time understanding. And like I've been at it now for like 4 years trying to understand music that isn't rock and metal.
Well, I think that's why
if you look at
if you look like Bronstein, who's really taken over in the metal genre right now, like as far as producer, not really mixer, but more so producer. If you look at him, he came from metal, but then like for years wasn't in metal.
Yeah.
And then like did pop and hip hop music mainly. And when he came back to metal, he took so many of those tendencies, which I mean, obviously is like better songwriting than a lot of metal people had at that point. But if you look at like the first project that he really started popping off with in the second era of his metal stuff, it was Spirit Box. And like what they do so well is moments. And they do the like wall of sound when necessary, but also do a really good job of like stripping everything back like very, very well, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, also like think about it, right? Like traditionally, like rock and metal is just guitar, bass, and drums, you know? And so like technically like that whole genre is about making big moments out of just a few pieces, you know? And so I don't know. That's something I've been thinking about a lot. And I'm really excited because like that country song, I was so scared to send it out and like it got cleared like almost immediately. Which is sick. And then now the big thing is like the bigger, like harder rock country stuff. You know, it's kind of hard to gauge where people want to be because you have artists like Hardy and you have like Lakeview. Which, funny enough, I went out to dinner the other night. And I'm like, that guy looks familiar. Who is that? It was the vocalist of Lakeview. And I was like, is that him? I can't tell. I was like, I'll just yell like "Let's go Pens" or something because he was in Those Who Fear.
That's funny.
I love Those Who Fear. So like, I really wanted to be like, hey man, I love Those Who Fear, but I didn't want to like.
You don't want to be that guy.
You know what I mean? Like that's such an awful thing to say, but like that band was on repeat. All right,
that band rocks.
They also have the hardest album intro ever. Off of, I think it was
the one with the guy's face on the front of it.
Yeah. It was no. Well, yeah, they have two with a guy's face on it, but it's Death Sentence.
Oh. Okay, yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that album. Josh Schroeder's the GOAT, dude. And so
no, you're not wrong.
No, I'm not wrong. I know I'm not. And so yeah, I don't know. I've just been like trying to learn more. I'm also like I've been playing guitar way more, which is like really exciting.
That's really cool.
Cause like I don't know, I feel like for years it was like, you know, I was doing the whole metal thing and then I got into pop music, which is like way more simple. So like I lost a lot of my chops, for better or for worse. But then something I lost altogether throughout that entire journey was like the stuff I came up on. Like how I learned how to play guitar was like playing along to like blues records and stuff like that. And so now that I'm in a place where everybody is so good, it's not that I feel like I need to compete. It's more or less that like I feel like there's certain expectations.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
And so I don't want to be that guy.
Baseline expectations.
Yeah. And, you know, just like familiarizing yourself with like the habits of those players is like pretty important. So that's been a big thing for me, you know. I can't wait to start playing drums again, dude. That's going to be awesome.
I like the idea of what you said of like not necessarily because you mentioned it at the beginning of the goals conversation, which is like I don't necessarily want to set goals. I want to set like you almost were like I want to build better habits around myself and like create a better person rather than set a goal to achieve a goal. It's like I want the longevity of like I want to be instead of like I want to lose 40 pounds or I want to go to the gym X amount of times a week or whatever. It's like I want to be a healthy person. What does that look like?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's
and like sometimes that might be going to the gym, but that's also like doing a lot of other things like eating differently or
like how you
whatever.
handle things,
Or
right?
how yeah, exactly.
You know, I don't know, a few years ago, like if I like put my heart into a song and like never came out, or if like the artist was like, oh, I'm gonna go work with this guy who's like way better than you, like I would be like crushed, you know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
like you can't move your way up in the industry like
Well, and
reacting
also
to things like that.
yeah, but I
You
say
know?
you can't control that. There's nothing that you can do
Yeah.
to prevent that from happening. All you can do is make the best thing that you can make, and then like if people take it, then cool, and if they don't, then that's also fine, and you can just continue on the next one.
Yeah, I mean that's really it. Like I just want to figure out how to like become I don't even know how to word it. Like I really, the only focus is I just want to be a better like service provider, you know. And there's like a fine line, right? Like I don't want to just be like a doormat, like a creative doormat, you know.
Yeah, you want standards.
Yeah, and like I want to but like I don't want my skill set to hinder what the artist can accomplish.
You want okay,
You know?
yeah, and you want to be able to help an artist go beyond their creative vision, not hinder their creative vision.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's this thing that people fall into where they become known for a certain sound.
Mm-hmm.
And so then they kind of are under the impression that like the people who hit them up are going to them because they also want to sound like this. And I don't think that that's always the case, you know?
Yeah. People just want good sounding stuff, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like the sound of whatever. I mean, it's even just talking about like Josh Schroeder is a really good example of like, in my opinion, dude could have a sound and kind of does have a sound, but he does also like really want to get to the cut to the core of the rawest version of that band.
Yeah, and it always sounds unique. And that's how you
Yes,
could
it
tell
always sounds unique.
that's how you could tell it's a Josh Schroeder production, is because it doesn't sound like anything else, you know?
Yes,
And
100%.
I think that that's very, very interesting. And of course, there is an element to that where it's important to sound like everything else. Like if someone's like shooting for radio, like you have to make things sound a certain way, you know?
Yeah.
If it were up to me, we'd have some fun, you know, and deviate.
Sure.
But, you know, like if whenever you start getting into those scenarios, it gets weird. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think that like he's a great example of like just an awesome producer who just sits down and like figures it out with the band. And that's kind of the ethos that, you know, we're trying to really stand by.
Yeah, and I mean, what was the so what's the one band that I mean, he's worked with a million different bands, but like
He worked
the
with
one that
Nick's
I'm
band.
did he? I didn't
Yeah.
know that. That's really cool.
Yeah, dude, Lions Among Us.
I
Also,
didn't know that.
the guitar tones on that sound nuts. I still don't know what he did, but the guitar tones sound nuts.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say he does a really good job of like I listen to a bunch of records that he's worked on, not knowing that he's worked on, but enjoying them because they feel very unique. Um, and then finding out that he worked on them, like, oh yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I think the goal setting thing, I feel like people can really take on for themselves and not necessarily like, I feel like they can do themselves a disservice by like being too stuck on a goal and not, it feels too, what's the word I'm trying to say? Like,
Rigid.
it feels too rigid. Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels too rigid. Whereas like you saying, I'm going to work out. I need to lose 40 pounds in order for this year to be successful. Well, then if you don't do that, because stuff happens, you don't know what the year's going to look like. Here's a long time. So like, you don't know what's going to happen. You might have a global pandemic. You might have to move. You might get married.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well,
like and ideally some of those things would be planned, but you know, but the ability to go, I want to be a healthy person. I want to be a better producer that's going to do this. This is the kind of producer I want to be. What can I do to work towards that goal? in mind, or that idealistic version of myself.
Yeah, and so like I think like I mean that's really the whole reason why when you asked that question I responded that way, right?
Yeah.
Cuz like I don't know, I was talking to Rory last year and effectively like I was just like spilling my guts. I was like, this is where I'm at. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm not getting enough work. Like, I really don't know like what I should be doing. And I was like super hung up on having like a killer portfolio. And like, I was like trying to like get artists to work with me, like just so like I could like build up my portfolio. And he was like, have you been on my website? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, what do you think about it? And I was like, well, it doesn't even have like that much stuff on it that you've done. He goes, yeah, my biggest work isn't even on there. He was like, and I'm booked up way too much.
Constantly, yeah.
And so that was like the turning point where I was like, okay, so like obviously I'm focusing on the wrong thing, you know. He was like, the only way that you're going to get booked is from word of mouth, you know. He was like, you could totally do this thing where you have a great content marketing strategy and you have a great website and all of that. He was like, but that doesn't attract A&Rs, you know. It doesn't
Yeah.
like
it gets your foot in the door. It gets your foot in the door to a certain type of person.
exactly.
But and which is fine. Which is fine for like regular work, but it's not gonna do the. It's a wide thing. It's not like a deep thing.
Yeah, and this isn't to drag anybody who does that. You know what I mean? Because I'm still planning on doing that. You know, so
I think it's good. I think it's good for you to have that to show that you do regular work. Like it's good for an A&R to go to your Instagram and see that you have things that you're showing off.
Yes, exactly. And but in terms of like starting, right? The thing that I kept running into is it attracts a certain kind of artist who might not be in a place where you are, you know? And so I just kind of was like, okay, cool. So like I avoided that. For much of this year, my site was down again. And just recently turned it back on. And so the whole thing is you need to focus on being healthy because being healthy makes you better, which makes you, you know, a better husband. It makes you a better friend. It makes you a better producer, a writer, you know? And so he was like, what you need to do is work on yourself and then everything else will get better. And so I've really just kind of been focusing on that. And, because like that's also like a part of a bigger conversation of like the work-life balance of like working in music is very difficult. And so at some point, you know, assuming this all works out, right, and I can be super, super booked up and I'm always working and stuff, that immediately makes it difficult to maintain all of your relationships. And so it's just like a thing that like I'm trying to put in place early.
I have a theory that, and I don't even know if this is a theory or if this is just fact, but I have a theory that work-life balance is for people that have gotten to where they want to be. And it's not for people that are trying to get somewhere. So while you're on the journey of trying to build something for yourself, work-life balance kind of has to go out of the window a little bit. Not like fully, but like I think a little bit of it kind of has to go out the window because you can't be a good friend, you can't be a good husband, you can't be a good producer, you can't be a good content creator, you can't be a good, you know, all of these things, son, family member, all that kind of stuff, member of your community, all of those things. You don't get to do all of those things and also try to build a business at the same time. Like that's just physically impossible. There is not enough time. So I think thinking about it more of like, what are the priorities in your life? So if you're, and I think you get like 3 and then 2 minor priorities. It's like, so for me, it's like building a business. So like working on what I'm doing right now, studio work and the video production side of things, that, my family and community, like at church and friends and stuff, like my physical location community. Minor ones are content because that helps me do some of those things, but it's a minor one. And then another minor one is like like extended family. So it's like I'm making less time for my extended family because I need to prioritize my current family. I'm making less time for content because I need to prioritize building a business and doing good work. And not that I'm not doing those things, but I'm not doing, a lot of things. What that means is I do less things. Like I haven't played D&D in like months, dude.
Yeah.
It sucks.
I haven't been
I
playing
love
Xbox,
D&D.
and it makes me sad. It's
Yeah,
also
I
because the new
have.
COD sucks, but
Well, yeah, fair. I've heard really not great things, but it's like I haven't been able to do things that I want to do. I have that Game Boy that I SP clone that I texted you a picture of, the
yeah,
RG35X SP, and like I've played it a little bit when I first got it, and then like I haven't been able to play it very much. I've been reading semi regularly, but not
same.
nearly as much as I would love to. It's like there's a lot of things that I just physically can't do, because if I did those things, I wouldn't be taking care of my family, growing my business, and being a good member of my immediate community.
Yeah,
Because so I feel like that's kind of the. And then once you make it and you have enough money and you're good, you're making that regular contribution, or you have the clients coming in and you don't have to work as hard, or you can hire out all the processes, then you get to add stuff back into your life and be like, all right, I'm going to work 1 or 2 days a week now.
so
And then the rest of it, I'm going to watch TV or, read a book or whatever.
that was something that he warned me about, and that's that it never stopped. Like you think that you'll hit a point where you can relax, and you really can't.
Sure.
And so that's something that's very interesting to me. That's why like my health is like probably the biggest priority.
Yeah.
Know?
I view that as a part of my family. I kind of put that in my family.
Yeah.
The reason being, it's like I have a different view on health now that I have a child, which is, if I truly say that my family is one of the most important things in my life, and I am not actively doing things to make myself live longer and have a healthier life and show my son how to have a healthy life and be around and be able to run and play and do that and be a good dad, I'm not choosing my family as a priority.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So it's been I don't know. I mean, do I have goals? Yeah. I have like some
Sure.
pretty serious goals. Like in my notes app, like I have like, what is like my max workload capacity? Like, what do I have to do to get there? Like, I've kind of like gone through this. I have like rates, right? And
Yeah.
it's just like, okay, like if I'm able to get to this threshold at the rate I'm currently charging, I'll be making this much money. That will allow me to do this. And then like after this point, like when should I raise my rates? And so like I have notes like of me like brain dumping about that. And so like I have like a lot of pretty serious goals, about like where I want to be as far as like, what my week looks like in a year, and like how much money I'll be making, and like how should I be investing that money. And so like I have all of those things, right? Because like I would like to become a homeowner,
Yeah.
And
Dude,
I want
being
to
a homeowner's pretty awesome. Not gonna lie.
Yeah. And so like
Pretty great.
but that also all comes back to like the fact that like I want to like be healthy, right? Like I want to be financially healthy too. And so like sure, I have like a lot of pretty serious goals,
And I'm not saying that and I want to make sure people understand, and I know you understand this, but I want to make sure everybody understands. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to have goals.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's a bad thing to let goals drive what you do for an entire year. I think it's better to create better habits and let the goals help direct your habit building.
Right. Like I think the way that I'm kind of looking at it right now, I've never actually thought this through, by the way. It's just something I've kind of done.
Yeah.
But I think the way that I look at it is, well, okay, if this is where I want to be, then this is the lifestyle that I have to live. So if I focus on living that lifestyle, then I'll accomplish my goals. And
it's called lifestyle centric planning.
Oh, really? There's a thing
for it. The book hasn't come out because he's writing it right now, but if you know the author, oh god, what's his name? If you know the author, Cal Newport. If you know the author Cal Newport, he wrote like Slow Productivity and Deep Work and a bunch of other really cool. He's working on a book called The Deep Life, which is really a life built outside of a life that kind of what you're talking about, was like a life that you build to be your like idealistic lifestyle. and so you reverse engineer that, and that's called lifestyle centric planning.
That makes sense. I mean, that's kind of like the process for everything, right? Like, it's like if you want to hit certain business quotas, what are you going to do? You're going to reverse engineer them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and break them down into smaller bite-sized pieces. That's like a lot easier and more manageable and less like daunting to take.
Yeah,
on.
like whenever I was in sales, like it's pretty simple, right? Like if you want to sell this many cars in a month, you need this many qualified leads. The numbers will work themselves out, and then you could start figuring out ways to make your output higher from having the same workload. And so like that's kind of like what my company did, and it worked out really well. And so it's like, why can't we do the same thing for like more abstract ideas, right? Where it's like, well,
you definitely can. Yeah.
If I want to work longer in a day, like how can I not feel tired, right? It's like maybe it's not 10 Red Bulls. Maybe it's actually like, you know, you're deficient in magnesium and you're not working out, and you're eating inflammatory foods and stuff like that, you know? And so like
you're drinking your coffee too early in the morning.
Yeah.
I've started drinking my coffee after 9 o'clock, and I've noticed like a really big uptick in like my sustained workload.
I used to roll out of bed, go downstairs and make a coffee. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I used to do that too, dude. It was the first thing I did every morning.
It was the first thing I did, and then I started waiting, and it started helping. And then I learned that part of the reason why you crash after you have coffee is because you're dehydrated. And so even if you're chugging down water, that doesn't help. That does not help at all, because you're just retaining water, or your body isn't using it. What it actually comes down to is a lack of electrolytes. And so like I started taking electrolytes daily. Literally the most life-changing thing I've done yet. No supplement, nothing has done as much for me as electrolytes in the morning.
Yeah.
And
I'm testing so this is something I enjoy doing, is like testing stuff on myself. And so before I do a new year, like what is my actual like goal for the new year, plan for the new year, or whatever that I'm doing in the next year, in December I like to test a bunch of stuff. Like I say I want to write once a day or 3 times a week or whatever. It's like, can I physically make myself do that in arguably one of the most busy times of the year? Like, can I actually do that? Or the one I'm thinking about is like, what are some ways, if I move my schedule around, that I can actually like feel better throughout the day?
Yeah.
And a big thing for me was, like you said, like moving my coffee to like post 9, but also making sure that before I do that is like, I always drink 2 of my big like 20-ounce bottles of water and go to the gym before I have my coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
And like, dude, that has been a game changer for me. It's crazy how much better I feel.
Yeah, that's been the biggest thing for me. I like working out in the morning, and I'm not a morning person. And so this day job is making it very difficult for me to work that in. But there's a gym right down the street.
Heck yeah, dude.
And so like in my head, it's like, I can definitely wake up at 6 every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I used to do it all the time. I'm just being a baby about it. And so
when you have a kid, you'll have to do it anyway. So you might as well start now.
Yeah, I might as well just get in it. And so, yeah, like, I don't know, like I'm trying to like figure out, what I could do to like really improve my quality of life immediately. And it always just comes down to like my physical fitness, because that directly correlates to my mental health. And then
brain,
and then like my
how long you are active during the day and stuff.
Yeah, and then like my financial health, you know. And so like I'm very thankful that I got a day job with this move, because it's alleviated a lot of stress, but it's still not enough money to hit my goals, you know. So more goals.
Sure.
I have many goals.
Sure. And then, like I said, not a bad thing, but things to work towards, not things to rigidly run your life by.
And I think another thing is too, like, I don't know if it's just because like I have ADHD or like what, but like there's something about like setting like hard goals that's like extremely intimidating to me, and then I just never get them because I don't see like how to act. And so like I just started like kind of changing like little things where it's like, well, I want to get better at guitar, right? And so it's like I could take lessons, but like that's a lot of pressure, right?
And money.
And so it's like I don't really want to be dropping money on guitar lessons, and then you worry about like maybe like the teacher isn't like a good fit and all of that. And so like what I started doing instead is I just started learning songs again. And
it's amazing what you learn when you just learn songs, right?
Yeah, that's been really fun. And I still like I want to get better at keyboard too. So that's a thing. I probably will get lessons for that just because like I'm really bad.
Keyboard is also like, it's really hard, man. I feel like there's a lot of stuff online for guitar things, and there's less online for like really good keyboard stuff that would be usable in a studio.
Yeah, like once you have the basics down with guitar, you could kind of just like look up like cool things, you know, where it's like learn a bunch of these licks and then practice putting them in different parts of songs, and then like you move on to the next thing, you learn some more riffs
chord
and licks
shapes, that
chord
kind of
shapes
stuff,
is a big one that I've been learning, which is coming naturally just from learning songs, like like straight up like just like learning Michael Jackson songs is like one of the best things I think you can do. And so like I've been doing that, and I don't know, it's been really cool, and it's been fun just like trying to like learn more, and I'm excited for everything. Nashville's a really cool city. It's a very
dude
cool
I'm
city.
so glad that you guys got there and you got landed, and like Lee kind of joined you, and you guys are on that process of figuring everything out. We need to have Lee back. I need to come up there once you guys get a spot set, and then we'll do a podcast in the spot.
That would be awesome.
That'll be so fun.
That would be fantastic. I would love that.
I have an excuse. You know, Seth was just in Nashville. Goodwin.
Oh,
like last week.
I thought you were talking
about not our Seth.
I was like, he didn't even hit me up.
No. Seth Velvet Ear Seth.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, he was just in Nashville. We had a conversation about it the other day, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm doing a little bit of scouting, see what's up." But I think he had some co-writes.
Yeah, there's always people coming through. I met up with Adam. What's his name? Sigler.
Yeah.
He's awesome. We went to Joyland and Bearded Iris, and we hung out, and it was really fun. And I was like, "Dude, you should move here." And he was like, "I can't." And I was like, "That's fair."
I feel that. Totally.
Yeah, it's cool, man. It's cool being here. A lot of people just kind of like pop through. I met this really nice guy from Australia. He was here for like 2 months on a visa, and just like setting up rights, and it was cool hanging out with him. And he's really talented. Awesome. And it's cool like learning everything that's like kind of coming out of here. I keep hearing about K-pop. I guess a lot of people are doing K-pop here.
Yeah, John McLucas is like kind of on the front of that as well from the LA side.
Yeah,
weirdly,
I would love to do some K-pop. I don't know how, but
you should talk to him about it.
It would be like a nice like juxtaposition to like, you know, recording banjo. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. It's a super different thing.
Yeah. And honestly, just like
lots of vocal stacks.
Just like the community here is just like awesome, dude. Like everybody's just like so helpful and like so nice and just like genuinely caring for one another. And I haven't been in a place like that, you know, like I can make a post like looking for a vocal chain, and like people are hitting me up. It's like, please use my stuff. And I'm like, I don't, we're going to rent it. We're going to rent it. You know, but like, you know, like it's just really cool, man. You know, like I can hit up anybody if I need something, and they'll absolutely be down to help. And I've never experienced like genuine like kindness like that. You know, it's always like, oh, what are you gonna do for me? And so it's cool. And I've been having a lot of fun. The Discord just had a meetup here, so I met a bunch of people that I've only seen through the internet, which is always awesome because you realize how tall they are.
That's true.
How short you are. And so that was very cool. And it's just been really cool, man. And a lot of people popping through, and I love it. So
that's awesome, dude. Yeah, I'm pumped. I'm pumped for you guys. That's I've always thought that Nashville probably is where you needed to be rather than like in LA. And I feel like you fit there so much more.
A lot of people are also moving here from LA right now.
That's what I'm saying.
It's just really cool.
I mean, there's a lot of hospitality around that area as well, as far as like people just being more welcoming.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know, I felt like in LA especially, like it can be pretty transactional, especially if you're starting like from the bottom, you know, because like everybody's desperate. So it's always like one of those things where it's like, oh, well, what
very,
can I
very
get from
hungry
you?
city, very hungry city.
Yeah, and like here it's not like that, you know. You could hit up anybody who's, you know, working at a high level, and they're typically down to talk, you know, because it's just about being cool people, you know, which is like how it should be. You know?
Dude, it's crazy how that works, right?
And it's just really cool. It's awesome.
I know you have to go soon.
Yeah, I do. I have to go work.
Yeah, I know you have to go do some stuff soon. So I want to say thank you for coming and hanging out and chatting and all that. And it's good to have you back on the pod once while
Likewise, Steve.
you're in the in betweens of the holidays. So
Yeah.
we'll get you back on regularly eventually.
Yeah.
Eventually, yeah. You're definitely your job's kicking your butt when it comes to your schedule. So or lack of one at this point, honestly.
I've no comment because this is going in a public domain.
There you go. So we'll get you back soon. Hopefully sooner than later. Hopefully not 5 months from now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do that. But hey, if you're listening to this and you're watching this, thanks so much for watching.
Yeah.
In the comments, I would love for you guys to drop what your idealistic goals or things that you'd like to do in 2025 would be down below. Would love to see that. And see if anybody has anything just really out there. Would love to see it and see some community built around that.
Yeah.
And then we'll probably post this in the Discord and see what we'll have a little bit of a conversation in the Home Studio Hangout Discord and about goals and stuff. So yeah, if you're into that, links are below or drop a comment or whatever. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you guys in the next one. Later.
Goodbye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Home Studio Hangout podcast. If you could take the time to like, subscribe. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other audio platform, go ahead and make sure you're subscribed and also leave a rating and a review. It helps the show get out to new people, and we're trying to grow every single week. Once again, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Home Studio Hangout podcast, and we'll see you next week.